but in Spain, they tax you for using the sun. I'm not joking. So there is a tax for having solar panels. They want you to tap into the grid, which is very unfortunate. And we're hoping that they will repeal that law. You know, it's so unfair. But sunlight, we cannot live without it. It converts cholesterol into vitamin D, which is an essential factor in maintaining good bone health. As little as 15 minutes exposure provides minimum requirements of our vitamin D. So sunlight is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And for those of us who are coming from England, you know, there are many people in England who in the winter, they have what's called seasonally affected disorder. They become depressed because they don't see the sun very, very often. Sunlight improves vitamin and mineral absorption, stores energy in the muscles and the nerves, improves overall metabolic function and efficiency. What a blessing that is. Increases a sense of well-being and energizes the body. So when we get up in the morning, we look out the window, we see the sunshine, and we feel good. And we look out, we see it's raining. It's a miserable day. Every day above ground is a good day. It's not a miserable day, you know. But we just like to see the sun. Sun boosts the immune response that kills bacteria and viruses, controls the chemistry of the blood. You know, so sunlight again is essential to our existence. And then, you know, in this scripture, this Bible verse here, and God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed that is on the face of the earth, and everything that brings forth fruit in the seed, to you it shall be for food." I'm sorry about the text not being very clear there, but when God made us, He said to us, "This will be your food." Notice He did not say Kentucky Fried, or He didn't say Burger King. He said, "To you it shall be for food." That's the food that God intended that we should have. That's the fuel. So nutrient group 2, raw foods. And then they have, and why are they good for us? They have sunlight locked into every atom. They are grown on trees whose roots reach deep down to absorb both the Earth's electromagnetic field and the Earth's micronutrients, minerals, and other plant nutrients. So all the foods in this category can be eaten in their natural raw form with no preparation required. By the end of this evening, I will be explaining to you why we need to eat more raw foods for health. So they have more water content than any other foods. So raw foods, the things that you can eat naturally, that was what God gave to mankind to eat in the garden. And then nutrient group 3, these are foundational foods for good health, but require some preparation. They are not hydrated as the natural raw foods in group 2, but nevertheless, they are very good for you. Grains and legumes. Now, some folks will say, and it is true, that when you eat a lot of beans, it can make you very windy. However, there are things that you can put into the beans that will reduce the gas. First of all, you soak the beans overnight and pour off that water. And then if you're cooking with onions and garlic and thyme and other things, and they will help to dissipate the gassy effect, which I'm sure that when you're cooking these things up, we do that anyway. So there are things that you can do to make sure. But this is healthy food for you. Contains a high concentration of nutrients, primarily complex carbohydrates and proteins. Can be stored for long periods of time. So these are foods that you can store, you can keep for a very, very long time, especially if you're preparing for the time of trouble. So, but these are good foods. And then nutrient group 4. Notice where this is placed in the hierarchy of nutrients. Group 4, flesh foods and dairy products. Meat, fish, poultry, dairy are surprisingly low in the nutrient hierarchy. These foods provide the most concentrated nutrients, primarily fats and proteins, but they also place significant stress on our bodies. They are difficult to digest. All right? Highly acidic or mucus forming. Puts a considerable strain on the gastrointestinal tract and liver in breaking them down for assimilation. Not to mention the fact that it is only in animal foods that you will find cholesterol, which is responsible for the buildup of plaque in the arteries. Okay? There is no cholesterol in plant-based foods. The liberal use of growth hormones, antibiotics, genetically engineered feed, and exposure to other environmental hazards and conditions make consumption of flesh foods significantly more problematic than it was 50 to 100 years ago. So the fact that animals today are being processed for the market, there's not enough, so they've got to get them through very quickly. They're given hormones to fatten them up very quickly. They're given the wrong kinds of foods because the cows, they're supposed to eat grass, but they're given different kind of animal feeds. And some of, as you know, just a few years ago, they were given the flesh of other animals to eat. That was what created mad cow disease in England just a few years ago. And then you're never quite sure about what you're eating. Just a few years ago in England, they discovered that there was horse flesh that was being passed off as beef. And of course, Seventh-day Adventists were then saying, I think I'm going to give up meat now. But we shouldn't have found ourselves in that position anyway. All right. I think that we need to be ahead of the game because we've got so much information that's been given to us about how we ought to live healthy lives. And then nutrient group 5, refined and processed foods. When we do our weekly shopping, the truth is that most of our shopping basket consists of refined and processed foods. Is that the truth? I know that it's the truth in the UK. I can't be so categoric about you folk here in South Africa. But this is, as I look around Johannesburg, I've been gone for 11 years, and I'm just so impressed with the development and the affluence and so on. Sorry, keep the. So I know that you're living a Western lifestyle, and you're going into the supermarkets, and in the supermarket, it's harvest time every day. And so we find that we are using a lot of processed foods. But I want you to notice this quote. Every time you eat or drink, you are either feeding disease or you are fighting it. Every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or you are fighting it. This is our concept of junk food. We all know that this is junk food, and we know that this is what we ought to avoid when we're eating or we're making food choices. But I want to share with you another concept of junk food. This is junk. Okay? Now, why do I say that? All these things that you see here, whether you have tin peas or tin beans or whatever it is, if it's been canned, in order, when you pick, let's say you pick some peas from the garden. Or let's do something else. Let's say you pick some potatoes and you boil those potatoes, and you've eaten some, and then you leave them you leave the rest in the fridge. How long can you leave it? And if you don't leave it in the fridge, you leave it out within a couple of days, you need to discard it, right? Yeah, because it's began to go off. But with the things in the tin, they are there for how long? Forever. Why is that? Because all the enzymes have been removed from the product so that you can extend the shelf life. Okay? So that's the reason why the enzymes in the food is what helps aids your digestion. So with these things that have been preserved, processed, they will have all sort of things added to them. All the other food nutrient groups come from nature. However, processed and refined foods are not provided by nature. So essentially, they are junk foods. These include most things that come in plastic containers, tins, bottles, or cans. They have been tampered with by man and to extend the shelf life. So the truth is that we are well-fed but undernourished. Okay? Because you're eating, when you're eating from a tin or a bottle, you're eating foods that are nutritionally, well, I shouldn't say bankrupt, but nutritionally challenged. Okay? There's not enough nutrition, so you can look good, but this will eventually lead to us getting sick. You know, as I speak to you today, let me just say I'm as guilty as anyone else, because one of the things I used to pride myself on as a father and husband, I would go to the wholesalers, and I'd buy tins of baked beans. I'd have tins of tomatoes and all that, and they would be in the garage because it was just so convenient to go in. I'd have tins of corn for our salads and so on. Now that I know better, we just go to nature. Okay, we go to the market and we get the natural stuff, and we make preparation rather than eating from a can. So for all of you baked bean lovers and tomato ketchup lovers, I'm sorry to spoil your evening. And notice the reason that apart from having the enzymes removed, they contain preservatives, dyes. How did they get to that color? For those of us who cook, you know, when you cut up those tomatoes, they do not get redder in the pot. They tend to look more bleached out, right? So when you take that tomato ketchup, it is so red, and you think, wow, this is the tomato, but that's the dye that's in it. Sorry. And then, of course, there's the additives, the additives in there which are not good for your health, the stabilizers, the coloring, the artificial flavors, and other nutritive compromising ingredients that are damaging to the body. Okay, so these are the reasons why they are classed in the category of junk foods, because they are not helping you nutritionally. Those individuals who experience higher levels of health tend to utilize the higher nutrient groups in the hierarchy of nutrition. So you don't have any choice about the air and the sunlight and the water. Yes, we do have a choice about the water, because, you know, some of us, we tell ourselves, I cannot drink water. My parents are like that. My parents say, I can't drink water. Me and water don't get on. That's the message I get from my parents. So if my parents, and my mother particularly, if she is to drink water or liquid, then it has to have a good amount of sugar in it. That's why she has diabetes and other things. But she says, you know, I'm in my 80s now, I've done well. But remember what I said to you yesterday, that you can, now is the time to be banking away for your pension health. This is the time when you are storing up for your pension health, so that when you get to the older age, you're able to draw down on what you have banked. So look at this wonderful, wonderful motor car. I don't even know what make it is. And then you have these jet fighters, and there's the space shuttle. All of these things are beautiful, well-engineered vehicles or machinery or modes of transport. And nobody in their right minds would say they just evolved. None of us would say that. But when we come to something far more complex, which is and systems that are far more intricate, far more complex, that is the human body, we say, or some of us say, it's just evolved. It just came about by accident. And yet you would never look at this piece of machinery, this kind of kit, and say, it just came about by chance. A lot of thought, a lot of engineering has gone into that. And I'm going to join with the psalmist in saying, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. You wouldn't have a car like this, and where it says you put petrol in the tank, you go and you put diesel in the tank. And if you had something like this, I'm sure those who have the care for this aircraft are very, very careful about the kind of fuel that they put into it. Last year, tragically, we heard about a pilot who ran out of fuel in the air. Did you hear about that? Yeah. There was a football team on board, and they were traveling to a football match and in Argentina, and they recklessly ran out of fuel. You cannot afford to do that with an aircraft. You can run out of fuel on the ground, and we walk a few miles and it's inconvenient. But brethren, when you're in the air, and the tragedy for me was, if you want to run out of fuel in an aircraft, do it by yourself. But when you've got a plane full of people, that's grossly irresponsible. And my point is this. God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. So God, who made us, says, this is the fuel to put into this system. You wouldn't be so reckless with your car. You wouldn't be so reckless with an aircraft. You would make sure it has the right fuel. But in spite of the fact, I want you to listen to this, in spite of the fact that we are reckless about the fuel that we put into this machinery, it keeps going and it keeps delivering. But there comes a point where it says, I'm tired. You've just abused me too much. And because we are so fearfully and wonderfully made, let me just put my hand up and say, in the UK, I drive a diesel car. My wife drives a petrol car. And there are times when we would exchange cars for one reason or the other. And I remember one day borrowing her car, driving into and then switching back to my car and driving into the petrol station, thinking that I was driving her car and filling up with petrol in my diesel tank. And it stopped working immediately. But when we put the wrong fuel into this tank, it keeps going because we are so fearfully and wonderfully made. Amen. And God gives us a chance to remedy the mistakes that we have made. Let me just say, Moses wrote this over 6,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, and the doctors are just finding out now, if it's not true, Moses must have been a genius. Because they're saying, make sure you have your 5 veg a day, 5 fruits a day. Did I say that here in South Africa? Make sure you have 5 veg, 5 fruits a day. And there it was 5,000 years ago. God knew what he was talking about because he made us. then I want to come to share with you about the hierarchy of food preparations. Is there any questions on what I've said so far? Okay, good. I've taken away your tin foods and so on, and you seem quite all right. Okay, the hierarchy of food preparations. Raw foods and whole foods. So when you take your foods in the raw state, you are getting 90 to 100% of the nutritional value of that food. Okay, if you're fortunate enough and you have a garden and you are taking it straight from the garden to the plate, that is by far the best. You are getting 100% of the nutritional value of that food, as God intended I should have. Also, some folk will say to me, well, you know that these things, they have pesticides on them, they have all kind of chemicals on them. That is also true. If you're not buying organic, that is true. But studies have shown that you are still better off with this rather than something else. So what you can do if you're not buying organic foods because they're more expensive, is that you can use an edible soap. So that's a soap that you wash your dishes with and so on, and you can use that just to wash off some of the chemicals that's on there. A friend of mine who's a doctor, we were at Hergalia together. He bought vinegar, and he would use the vinegar just to wash off the chemicals. The wax on those apples that make them looking shiny and so on. You can get that wax off just by using vinegar to get it off, and then you wash it. All right. And then juice and consumed immediately 90% of the nutrients. So having juicing vegetables mixed with fruits, these are some of the things that we would recommend. You're getting 90% of the nutrients from that as you do it. And then dehydrated or dried fruits, they are losing only 2 to 5% of the nutritional value. So this is good, a good source of food, good source of nutrition, just 2 to 5% nutritional loss. Frozen, that's picked from your garden, frozen yourself, it's losing between 5 to 30% of the nutritional value, but still a very good way of preserving your food. Okay, so if you have food that you're leaving over, freezing it is a very good way of ensuring that you're maintaining the quality or the nutritional value of that food. Steamed, 15 to 60% of the nutritional value. Okay, so when you're steaming your vegetables, there are some folks who steam their vegetables, and you're getting 15 to 60% of the nutritional value. Raw leftovers, and you've lost 20 to 70% of the nutritional value. Now, let me explain that to you. When you cut an apple and you put it on the table, or a potato, what's happening to it? Have you noticed that it's going brown? That's the process of oxidation that is taking place. And so that food is oxidizing. When you eat oxidized foods, you're introducing free radicals into your body. So when let's say, for example, it's Christmas and you've cooked that turkey and you're eating it for the rest of the week. That's oxidized food. It is very unhealthy. You're introducing free radicals into your body. Free radicals are the cells that correct the cells in your body. They're doing a lot of damage, and that's why we need to eat a lot of raw food. So if I back up, I was telling you about the tin stuff, The reason why we advocate that you eat a lot of raw foods, because they are antioxidants and they are dealing with the free radicals and the oxidized foods that you are eating. So if that's all you're eating, like I knew somebody who said, I am a vegetarian, I'm vegan, and yet they were eating no vegetables and very little fruit. And I wasn't surprised when that person got sick. You cannot function that way. So it's very important that with every meal, you have a good amount of salad, raw foods. And I said yesterday, do not mix your fruit with your vegetables. So in the morning, have fruits, have berries. Berries are very, very rich in antioxidants. Okay, so strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, these are very, very good foods, rich in antioxidants, which will help to keep you healthy. So raw leftovers, you're losing 20 to 70% of the nutritional value of the food. Cooked leftover, and you've lost 40 to 100% of the nutritional value. So what happens is this. One of the reasons why I said that we are well fed but undernourished is because we're eating the wrong foods in the first place, and then we're leaving the food in the fridge. It is oxidized, and then we eat that the following day. And God help us, we eat it for a third day. We eat it for a third day, and it has no nutritional value whatsoever. And so you need to be very, very careful. Just cook a small amount. Busy people. And so one of the things that we do is we'll say, well, let me cook for a few days because this will help me. But if you're going to do that, then put it in the freezer. Make sure it's frozen, because that stops the process of oxidation. Then cooked leftovers, up to 100% loss of nutrients. Okay, so you're really not getting much nutritional value from food. Yes, you will be filled up, but in terms of the nutritional content, there isn't a lot. So try to just cook enough for what your needs are. My wife and I, we're in Spain, and so we try not to cook too much food. Let me just say that we do eat leftovers because we're very loath to cook something and then throw it away. But we try to make sure that we haven't cooked that will go into a third day, and certainly if it goes into a second day, there's not a lot of it. But we proceed every meal with a large salad. So and the other thing, the enzymes in the salad is what is aiding your digestion. Okay, so when you're eating the tin foods and so on, they have no enzymes, and then you're eating it with leftover foods and so on, and then you're burping, you've got acid reflux and all that sort of thing, and you're taking antacid tablets. These are the reasons why these things are happening. Yes. Frozen, when you stop the process of oxidation, when you put it in the freezer and it's frozen, that's okay. That's okay. Yes, Alex.
So the salad, what about the salad cream? Salad cream.
I don't remember saying salad cream was in the garden. There was no salad cream in the garden, Alex. Again, this is a processed food. There's coloring, there's preservatives, there's all sort of things in there. Very good question, because you can make your own salad dressing. You can make your own salad dressing, and remember that our parents, and so on, we weren't used to doing these things. It's just that we've moved into an industrialized situation where we can go and we can take these things off the shelf. But maybe Roina can explain to you some of the salad dressings that we do. We use lemon juice and olive oil, a little salt, and so on. Just to make a salad dressing, but make sure that you do not pour too much oil. Oil is extremely calorifically dense. Okay, so you're putting a lot of calories on your salad and defeating the object. Okay, microwave, you are losing 90 to 99% of the value of the food, plus you are adding toxins. Okay, so with the microwaves, you are adding toxins to the food. You're losing a great deal of the nutritional value. Yes, Lachey.
So I read something recently that microwave technology has changed since the initial launch of the microwave oven.
Okay.
And what I've read is that, yes, prior to this new technology, microwave was really bad. But now that they're changing the microwave technology, it's not such.
Okay, so written by a microwave manufacturer, no doubt. The truth is, when you heat up a substance using the microwave, it changes the molecular structure of what you are heating, and that So when we discovered this, we just got rid of our microwave. It's a choice that you have to make. But I've not read the research. I would be very interested in seeing that. But we just need look at the rapidity with which the microwave is heating the food, and it's better to wait a little while longer, put it in the oven. That's what we do now. We find another way of heating it naturally rather than using the microwave. Yes?
Does this include like also warming up the as well?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Okay, so notice this. Commercially canned foods, 100% loss of nutrients, plus toxins. And can you tell me why plus toxins? Because we talked about the preservatives and the dyes and the coloring that's in these foods. And that's why the canned stuff is not very good for us. Okay, I hope I'm not spoiling your evening by telling you these things. And then fried foods, 100% loss of nutrients plus toxins. Okay, so when you are frying stuff, you're introducing free radicals into the foods that you're eating. Folk, let me just say that I myself love chips, and I'm a West Indian, so I love fried dumpling and fried plantains, and so we've given them up. You know, there just some things that we've moved away from. We recognize, we recognize that these things are damaging to the body, and if you're going to do it, it should be just once in a while. Once in a while. Once in a while, I was in Jamaica a couple of years ago with Errol and Paulette, and we'd been very good. And then they put on a Jamaican night. And we went to this thing. We decided we were just going to stay in our room and hermitize. But somehow we were lured out, and we went to this Jamaican night, and we were tempted and fell. Once in a while, the trajectory, look at your trajectory. Your trajectory is healthful living, but maybe once in a while, but notice what these things are doing to your body, and make sure, yes. Yes. We would say yes. We do that. But again, remember that when you heat the oil, again, it's changing the molecular structure. I think there is grapes, use the grape seed. Rona, do you want to say something on this?
Coconut oil or grapeseed or grape.
Grape seed, yes. So use coconut oil or grapeseed oil, which tend to stand the higher temperatures. Okay. I saw another hand here. Yes.
You mentioned earlier not mixing fruit and veg.
Yes.
Surely raw plus raw.
Okay, good question. Good question. The reason why we do not mix the fruits and vegetables is because they digest at different rates. Okay, so the fruit will digest faster than the vegetables, and when you mix them, it creates a reaction in the stomach, which creates putrefaction. That is, it makes you gassy and so on. So it's best to have the fruit by itself. So what we do is we have our fruits in the morning with our breakfast, and then at lunchtime we have a substantial salad. You know, and so this has given you all your antioxidants and the bioflavonoids that you need, the micronutrients that you need for good health. Yes, and then I'll come. Yes? Yes. Sometimes what we do, we pour the fruits into the oats as a sweetener, so banana and the berries and so on, these act as sweeteners. Or what we do also is that you can blend up the berries and pour it on as a sweetener, and you don't need the sugar, you know, so you can have it together. Yes? Yes. Okay, so yeah, there are some things. For example, the avocado doubles up as a fruit and veg. You know, so we tend to have avocado in the morning, sometimes on bread as a spread, or we can have it with our salad in the afternoon as a vegetable. But we wouldn't have vegetables with our fruit. So, for example, you've got the red bell peppers, which are very rich in vitamin C. We would have that in the afternoon as vegetables. So we try not to mix the two things together. All right? Yes.
We take fried foods, is that deep fried or even like fried or fried?
Okay. We'd be very, very careful of the deep fried stuff. But as my wife is saying, if you're going to fry something, then try to use the coconut oil or the grapeseed as a rare treat. Okay. All right. Yes.
I don't know if I'm thinking back. I wonder if you could explain, if you know, about how plants these days, there are GMOs in our vegetables as well.
Yes. Very good question. Yes. Yeah. Folks, the GMO foods, genetically modified foods, are very damaging to our health. As when you go out, for example, they're saying that maize corn, it's very, very difficult to find non-GMO corn, but you need to try to find out the source of these foods. Make sure that you are not eating GMO foods, because they're very damaging. So you can go for organic, or at least if it's not organic, make sure it's not GMO, for sure. Okay? Please. Yes, Victor.
I just saw recently there's cooking olive oil that was introduced, and then there's also another olive oil which is made for frying. And I'm just wondering about where these new products.
Okay. Yes. There are certain oils that you wouldn't use to fry because it changes the molecular structure, and it becomes you're getting the free radicals in there. But if you use the grapeseed oil, which is known, and also the olive oil, sorry, not the olive oil, the coconut oil and the grapeseed oil, these are what you would use for frying, but certainly not the other oils. Yes.
I have a question on water. There's
Sure, sure. I think the bottled water that we get is the best water, but you've got to know the source. If you know where it's coming from, but the tap water is water that's recycled from in our cities. They contain fluoride, and it's best if you were using the bottled water for drinking. So I would say that the best thing that we have today is the bottled water, unless you're going to go to the top of some mountain where there's a mountain spring water, and then even that is contaminated by the rain. Yes, Peter.
Just on that, on the water, I think the problem with bottled water, some of the plastics they use.
Absolutely, yes.
Goes into the water. For me, I feel the best source is to have your own purifier that is of a high quality.
Okay, very good, very good. Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Yes, you can do that. If you're getting it from the tap, boil it. Yes. Honey is again a refined sugar. It pushes up your blood sugar levels. And it's been refined by the bees. It's pollen. The bees refine it for you. So you have to be very careful about using honey or agave or any of these other sweeteners. They will have the same effect. Sorry, postmental syndrome. Yes, but come and see me afterwards, because I've been told that I got to finish. I got told that I got to move on. Okay, so okay, very quickly. 1932, Dr. Francis Pottinger carried out a 10-year study on the effects of heat-processed foods on cats, and they had two categories of cats. Pottinger had a raw meat group and a cooked meat group. And I want you to notice cats fed on cooked meats, pasteurized milk, condensed milk, and so forth, had all kinds of diseases. Heart problems, nearsightedness, farsightedness, underactivity of the thyroid, inflammation of the thyroid gland. These cats were antisocial. They had infections of the kidney, of the liver, of the testes, of the ovaries and the bladder, arthritis, inflammation of the joints, inflammation of the nervous system with paralysis, meningitis, all occurred commonly in the cats that were fed with the cooked meats. Okay, these cats died out after 4 generations. By the 4th generation, these cats had deteriorated so badly that they died out. The cats fed on raw meats were healthy, produced healthy offspring, were socially well developed, and continued to produce offspring well beyond the 4th generation. The point of this is not that you should go out and eat raw meat. Okay, but it's talking about the benefits of raw foods, okay, above cooked foods. So there's a lot of merit in the food that God gave to us to eat originally. All the enzymes are in your raw foods. It aids digestion. Digestion is easy. When you leave an apple on the shelf for a few days, you've noticed that it will begin to digest itself because of the enzymes that are in it. So when you take that apple and you eat it, it's easily digestible because all the enzymes are there. The pancreas hasn't got to work so hard. But when you've cooked out all the enzymes, or you've gone for something in a tin, or you've gone for a chocolate bar or crisps, the poor pancreas has to produce all these gastric juices to help in the digestion of the foods. All right? So, folk, thank you very much for your time this evening. God wants to bless you. He says, I have a future for you, a future to prosper you and to give you a blessed future. So God wants that for every one of us. We just need to be intentional in the choices that we make. And it's never too late to make those choices. And it's time that we begin to make these choices for our future well-being. May God bless you. Do you want me to pray now? Let's just bow our heads as we pray. I'm going to